Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 12 p.m. BST every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make money on the internet. I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary. We are delighted to say we have NFT stats, none other than Sam from Proof, Director of Research and the Modern Market account, which, if you don't know by now, is our new Twitter account. Gonna make sure you follow it. It's going to be verified soon as well, so we can post some better clips. As always, friends, we are going to be talking about some numbers today, but we're a reminder to you that nothing that any of us say here is financial advice. This modern market is exceptionally risky. No one really knows anything for sure. Please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment, especially on a day when a new meme coin has just dropped. And we're going to be talking about that in a moment. Legendary, with that out of the way, how are you doing this Friday, the 3rd of November?
GM, excited for the show. Also looking forward to the weekend. And music to my ears. If our modern market account will be verified soon, that means that we finally can upload videos in HD and don't have to go for our daily clips being a pixel mess any longer. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but yesterday I just couldn't handle it anymore. It was just getting too much, so I decided to go the other way around, post the clip that I cut from my personal account instead of the modern market, and then quote post it on the modern market instead of going the other way around, just to have that HD quality. It was hurting my eyes.
We have such different like sometimes we have very different standards for like different things. Like you'll really prioritize something and I'll think, it doesn't matter that much. And then I'm typically like, I need things at this time on this schedule and at this whatever. And you're more relaxed. And but then you're like, oh, but it has to be this quality and this thing. And I'm like, guys, don't worry about it so much.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
currently, for the people in the audience who don't know, we are doing daily clips and are alternating on a week-by-week basis between the two of us. So this week I'm doing the clips, next week BJ, you will play around. Thinking and reason behind this is to play around with different tools and just figure out what workflow works best for us. And you, BJ, asked me, I think it was on a Wednesday, when, Legendary, do you
What
think that
time?
you'll post the
What
clips
time
today?
is it
What
coming?
time? And I was like, I'm gonna post it today. And you're like, yeah, sure, but I want to repost it. I was like, yeah, later today, maybe. Definitely not the one who loves having a fixed schedule, but I think I kind of managed to post it within a 3-hour time frame, which is almost scheduled for me.
Yeah, in the end, it's a reasonable balance. I'm pretty much aware that I'm a little bit OCD and go over the top sometimes. I think back at the beginning of the show, I created a tweet schedule for like what time a certain thing the tweet should go out, then what time an announcement tweet needs to go out. And sometimes I think I spend more time creating this stuff, and then within like 7 days, you've tested and learned, and you end up doing something else anyway. So it's just a big learning of everything in this space, really, where you do something, you test it, you learn, you move on. And I just would never spend so much time on the preparation, which kind of sounds strange because obviously you need to prepare to do well. But at the same time, it's not as good as the actual execution, right?
Yeah, and I remember when we did airdrop season content on the airdrop season account, and you had that one creative phase in your life where you loved playing around with memes, and you got to the point where you said, I'm going to do a meme a day. I think even your memes were scheduled to come out at the very exact same time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I like to do things in the schedule to give yourself a chance of doing it. Because for me, if I move out of a schedule, then it's very unlikely that I get it done. So that's my thinking. Want to welcome Sam to the stage with us and ask him the question how he feels about this kind of scheduling stuff. Obviously, you're running a very tight ship and producing awesome content on a routine basis. Where do you stand on the scheduling?
I need to Can you make the question more complete? Because I missed a little bit of the initial conversation. Where do I stand on what aspect of scheduling?
Well, Legendary basically doesn't want a schedule and keeps me waiting all the time. I'm like, no, I need this by this time. Otherwise, I can't function.
Yeah.
How do you kind of navigate it when you're putting out so much stuff individually, but also at Proof?
Interesting. So I think that difference that you're talking about is as different as being righty and lefty. Like, I think there's some people who pack their suitcase before an airplane flight, like 3 hours before the flight, and some people who get like all twitchy if they're not packed like 2 days before the flight. And like I said, I think that difference is basically like being a righty or a lefty. I personally am the type who packs my bag an hour before the flight, and that's the reason I do daily content, is because when I create this like daily schedule for myself, I know if I were to do like monthly research reports, I would do nothing for 28 days. But doing daily content for someone with my personality just works really, really well, because it forces me to have constant deadlines, to have people counting on me. It's like a forcing function for my personality. So I'm probably a bit more in the legendary camp when it comes to the way to approach some of this stuff. But I know that's like deeply stressful for a lot of people.
But yeah, but interesting that you come to that outcome though, which is like, look, the solution to this is to go daily, which then ultimately makes you work as hard as anyone else, basically.
Yeah, I miss the Daily Show for sure. It was kind of, I felt like it was me at my like productiveness pinnacle.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and I think, but I get the only way that I talk myself down from it sometimes is that, you know, having this kind of rigid schedule is in the sense that things move so fast, and you really do have to just test and learn and just be super flexible. So that's the thing I'm really learning in my 2 years here, where like, don't get married to the schedule, because I would want to just get married to it, know that I can just do this forever and ever, and realistically, that's just it's not possible, is it?
Yeah, I feel you.
Right. Let's do it. I think we've got a bunch of people in here today wanting to get into some meme land news. Before we do that, what we're going to do is, as always, going to go to the snapshot up top. We are going to give you a bit of a breakdown of what's been happening in terms of the headlines and the price action in the space. So let's do that right now. So starting with the price action, we have Bitcoin down a few percent at 34.2K. We've got ETH at 1.79K in the snapshot. I've done that wrong. It's down a couple of percent. Solana is at 38.6, down 11%. Probably needed to correct a little bit. Ape is at 1.4, up 3%. NFT volume, pretty healthy, probably because of this meme land action. 16 million in total. Blur at 12.6. OpenSea at 2.7. In terms of the headlines, we have the meme airdrop, which we have been waiting for. It drops to the meme land holders. Settles, it did settle earlier at 0.025. Need to check where we're at with that now. Captain's dropped 35%, as low as 3.5 ETH-ish when I was checking earlier, has since risen back above 4. We'll talk about all of that in a second. Number 2, SBF is charged, by the jury, saying that he was guilty of all 7 charges of fraud and conspiracy. And the final headline is Yatrida sells 2 pieces for 22 ETH and 10 ETH respectively. Going to dive into that art a little bit later. Moving into the floor prices and top sales, we have CryptoPunks flat at 47 ETH, Bored Apes at 29.9, Mutants at 5.8, DGods at 3.1, Captains at 3.7, down 35%, as I just said. Azuki's at 5.1, Penguins at 4.9, down a few percent, Moonbirds at 2, up 4%, and Nouns at 27 ETH. A couple of top sales, we have the Victor Wembanyama Sorare card selling for 61.18 ETH. That's $110,000. And a CryptoPunk Wild Hair selling for 61 ETH. That's $109,000. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. What numbers are exciting you there before we get into the meme land stuff?
Man, the number that excited me on the snapshot was ETH up 22%. That would have been beautiful. But also I just read the news, which I did take with a grain of salt, because I think it was Cointelegraph that shared it, that apparently some exec at Vanguard said that they are estimating that their ETFs will be approved by the end of November. The BTC ETF, that is, news was 1 hour ago. So if that were to be true, and if the ETH ETFs were to follow soon, I was thinking that one day we actually could have a news like that, where we see ETH up, not maybe 22%, but at least a 2-digit figure on a 24-hour mark would be a good day to have again.
Well, that's one of the big cases for ETH at the moment, right? We've seen what's happened when the Bitcoin ETF excitement has been happening. And so the logical conclusion, this is the tweet we spoke about yesterday by OSF, said like, look, we know that ETH ETFs are kind of in the pocket at the moment, ready to be deployed in some respect. And so hopefully the thinking is that that follows suit. So I agree with you there. What's your thought on Solana? We spoke about Solana yesterday. You gave a little bit of an analysis of why you thought it was running up so hard. We had some people live at Breakpoint tweeting at us saying that it is because Solana is amazing, because Breakpoint is amazing. That's why everyone is just going to keep buying. Naturally, there's been a bit of a sell-off. How do you feel about this 11% correction on Solana?
It's pretty much in line with how the Bitcoin price corrected. Solana always been more volatile. So if you look at that triple X volatility band, if you want to call it like that, I don't think that it was a particularly strong selling of Solana, but just a correction in the overall market that we've seen over the last day.
Yeah, makes sense. I think that's a fair enough assessment. So let's get into it, Legendary. I think most people here at least know that the main headline for today is the meme coin, which has dropped. It's dropped at a 1.5 billion FDV. Kind of opened up a little bit earlier at 0.025, but I'm going to let you give some further context and explanation of what we've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the meme airdrop today to holders, to those who successfully participated in the fire sale. Then at 8 a.m. UTC this morning, we had the listing on exchanges, including Binance, including Bybit. Trading volume was very, very solid straight out of the gate. And right now, the price is at 2.2 cents. If we look at what those numbers mean for both individual holders as well as some of the biggest holders, we are looking at an airdrop value at a 2-cent meme spot price for captains of 13.7K, for potatoes of 4.6K, although that is with a caveat, because obviously there is an unlock going on over a longer period of time, over more than a year. So only a fraction of that is tradable. I think it was 20% from the get-go. If you look at some of the biggest claims, some of the people who got the biggest airdrops, last Viking ETH claimed 50 mil in memes, so a bit more than a million. Dingling and Kungs both claimed 26, 25 million meme respectively, so that's around 600K. And that were the three biggest claims that we've seen so far. But again, that is the portion that was available instantly. If you look at Dingaling, claimed 27 mil, but his total meme allocation is at 288 mil. So 10% that was available for trading immediately.
So super information, a lot to digest there. To me, there was, I guess there's a few angles to take here. The first is just, as you mentioned, there's like a certain number of just huge claims, which are just kind of fun and interesting to note. So as you said, there's been a couple of big claims. I've got two quotes from people. You mentioned Dingaling. I think it's been estimated his is a $7 million airdrop at current prices. That was a tweet by Pluid, which is the company which Loopify runs, after Dingaling shared that he had 288 million meme. So that's a pretty big win. Not bad at all. And then another cool one.
That 7 mil isn't available instantly.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's correct to note. And that context is provided by Sam NFT Stats. I would love to get your thoughts on this in a second, Sam, where he noted that there was an Alien Captains which sold for 37 something ETH 2 days ago. This morning, it was able to claim 76 ETH of meme. Now, as you say, 20% of that is immediately sellable. And so not all of that will be kind of in the hand straight away, but probably still a good trade. Sam, what are your thoughts on that?
That tweet was my most edited tweet ever.
Oh, really?
I'm like, we're all like trying to figure out what the fuck's going on here. So I put that tweet out. I thought it was fine. Then like people keep coming in with different facts about how like you only get this, you only get that. Like I've edited that thing like 6 times. I'm like, the responsible thing to do right now would be to delete this tweet because I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it increasingly feels to me like the real juice here was in maps as well as in like that the fire sale type stuff, and that the amount of meme coin that was associated with the NFTs is kind of what came out of the price. So like captains were able to claim, you know, an ETH or 2 of meme coin immediately, and the price of a captain went down an ETH or 2, and the rest of the meme sticks with the captain. So my sense here is that the ones who really were, you know, if you could go back in time and replay this all over again, the real play here was to get, you know, to buy the stuff, but to really get the maps out of it, try to get into fire sales, stuff like that. It feels like that's where there was real juice here.
That's super interesting. I believe I was one of the people to come back to you with a tweet, which was a screenshot of a message in Discord. And this is why this stuff's so confusing, isn't it? Because people are sharing things. It's like, well, where's that information come from? It was a screenshot of one of the meme land teams shots where, and I can't actually find it now. It should have been in the comments to that tweet, but I can't see it. But
they're definitely not optimizing for like content creators here. They're optimizing for like, if they're optimizing for content creators, they would just tell us what is going on. But we're all like digging into different things that were said in the Discord for holders. I think that, you know, but I think it's kind of cool that the people who got the maps are the ones who, because the maps were instantly redeemable. And, you know, and I think the people who got those are like, I've held captains before, and the minute I saw that there was this staking feature with maps, I was like, "Fuck it, I'm selling the captain." Like, I don't want to deal with this shit. But it was the people who paid attention, who were in the weeds. Like, those are the ones who made the money here.
Yeah, Legendary, you're going to come in there as well.
Yeah, no, I think in the Discord they keep saying that all the time. Maps are the alpha. The thing is, if
I found the message, by the way, here it is.
We spoke about that on another show about how similar Memeland and the Yoga Pets ecosystem are with Prana, and you also have the maps staking with the Cubs and the Yoga Pets, and you will have the Prana token, and the maps there will also play a role. I'm really curious to see if they will apply the same logic to the airdrop distribution over there in that ecosystem, and also again seeing, you know, that Kungs claimed a similar amount, very similar amount of meme tokens to Dingaling, so a massive amount going to him, knowing that both projects are invested in one another and that they had both found a very close relationship. I'm really curious to see if it will play out in the same way in terms of the token distribution, or if they come up with something different. Because if it plays out the same way, now everyone looking at Memeland ecosystem, just as Sam said, would know what to do if they wanted to optimize for the Prana airdrop.
That is interesting. Do you know how far back, like you said, I mean, you've mentioned this before, we've spoken about this before, that they're kind of on a very similar path in terms of the way that they've structured their NFT economy and the way that they intend to drop the coin too. Do you know how far back they are on that path?
I mean, the Yoga Pets, which are the equivalent to the captains, released, they are unrevealed right now, but they are getting closer to the airdrop. On other stages of the path, they are moving faster than Memeland. So they did launch their SocialFi product, GMIO, I think last week, so moved faster than Memeland with that. So it's difficult to say what that means for when the token PGE will be. But again, I'm very curious to see how they will distribute.
Very, very interesting. I do think though, so look, I'm not super familiar with that project or the founder. I am slightly more familiar with the Memeland ecosystem just because I've heard Ray talk on interviews and I've kind of followed him a bit more closely. My only reservation about that is a general observation of how any type of derivative plays out. And it seems to be the case. And I don't want to call it a derivative if it's not the case, because as I said, I'm not super familiar with the project, but it sounds like from what you're saying, they're like they're sharing a lot of elements of the same of Memeland.
Yeah,
And
because they worked together. I mean, Kungs was part of the
yeah,
Memeland team before he went out and did his own thing.
exactly. So my thought on observation from how meme coins run, and then people always look for the next one and someone creates something similar, or even NFT projects where there's one thing and then there's something else which is similar. Like the derivative never goes quite as hard as the main one, right? Like the main one is the main one for a reason, and people who are priced out of the main one are really wishing that the derivative will move up in the same way, but ultimately it's just not the same. Like, do you think there's a little bit of that? Like, do you have that reservation as well? Are you close enough to have that reservation? That's just an open question from me, who's not close to that ecosystem.
I mean, I'm a holder of both ecosystems, but certainly I do have the reservation, and I do see the efforts that the Kungs ecosystem is taking to position them a bit more differently with the Prana token, going more into that digital health, digital well-being, digital wellness, and not only digital but also like physical wellness, partnering with resource, etc. So just trying to take a different route there, but the underlying structure is mostly the same. And as you said, meme is the one capturing all the attention span, is the one making headlines that they are the $1.5 billion FTV on launch day, knowing that FTV doesn't say anything because circulating supply is the number to look at. So yes, I even if I wouldn't say that's a derivative, I definitely would see that this is the public perception for many people who are not familiar with the history, and they would look at both ecosystems and say, oh, this is just copying Memeland.
Interesting. That is an interesting, maybe kind of side thought to have. Glad we explored that. But I think let's get back to Memeland then, although I'm going to keep that in my mind. You just mentioned that you're still a holder. Actually, let's get to, I want to come back to that and ask what you did or what you haven't done or whatever in a second. But the message that Sam was referencing and that we were talking about a little bit earlier was this, and this is a screenshot of a Discord message. I hope it was legit. But they said the airdrop is done. Maps and valuables get you the first unlock. As Sam was explaining, it was actually maps that was the most important thing. Maps and valuables get you the first unlock. The next unlocks of your airdrop will be later. And this is crucial. Only 5% of the 25% going to NFTs was unlocked today. The next unlocks will be later and will be in multiple releases. So that was pretty important information to me. I definitely wasn't aware of that. Legendary, as a holder, were you aware of that? Did that make you do anything differently? How did you approach today as a holder?
I wasn't aware of the fact that the maps and valuables get you the first unlock. I was aware of the staggered unlock for the token claim that the NFT itself holds. How I personally went about the drop is going to be quite frank. I sold all of my meme on very early this morning. I sold it instantly, learning from my mistake with ZTX, where I told you I had a mid 5-figure claim with ZTX that I, still bullish on the ecosystem and everything, but from a trading perspective would have been just smarter to sell on launch day and buy back in at a 60-70% discount. So I was like, let's take a learning and let's just not be caught up in greed and speculation and sell it the moment I can move it. Didn't want to sell on Uniswap, wanted to wait for Bybit and push it there and sell it.
Very nice. Very nice. And I think, I don't know, sometimes when you wait a day, it can work as well. But in the end, as you say, it's just profit is profit when it comes to airdrops, in my opinion. Sam, do you want to come in on the airdrop itself?
Yeah, I have a question for Legendary. Like, very basic question. Were you able to did you make money on this? Like, what's the breakdown of, let's say, of like where the money here was actually made? Because a lot of people are discussing that on my feed, and I feel like I'm getting mixed messages.
I made money, but only for the reason because I traded my captain multiple times, and it was able, like I sold it around that 8-9 ETH mark, and then I bought back in at the very, very low, and I made money because I was lucky to also get a bit of an allocation in the fire sale on more than one wallet. So I basically ended up with a free captain, if you want to put it like that, at TGE.
And that was because of the fire sale. I'm not talking
Yes.
about like trading gains of like timing
No,
things
no, no,
right.
that was because of the fire sale, but I'm not talking about trading gains either. But the point is, if I had bought my captain and kept it while it was at like 8 ETH, I would have been at a loss. Like the only reason why I at least managed to recoup the captain's investment is because I bought it I bought it later at the dip and held that at the like 3 to 4 ETH price point, and because I had a couple fire sale allocations. Without that, I would not have made a profit compared to the price that I paid for the captain at TGE.
Okay, got it. What's TGE? Sorry.
Token generation event.
Oh, okay, got it. Cool. Yeah, no. And look, I mean, I think like one of the crazy things about this whole story, and it just kind of like speaks to the industry. Like I know Ray decently well. You know, I lived in Hong Kong, and when I was running Uber, he was kind of like one of the hot startups for 9gag, and like whenever there was a startups in Hong Kong event, we'd see each other, and I host him on the podcast, and we talk a fair bit. And he's had a very hard time raising money, and one of the reasons that it's been hard for a Hong Kong-based company to raise money from Silicon Valley, and and one of the things about meme coin was it allowed him and his team to raise money at a $69 million valuation, which just wasn't possible in traditional markets. And now the market's valuing it at 1.5 billion. I mean, it's just so wild. And I think like I think like that's the obviously we all know, I think that this token probably it's probably not worth it to go and buy it at these prices, but for the company it's been it's $10 million of cash in the bank from that they've been able to raise it with zero dilution. It's just kind of wild what the opportunities that this market and this casino can present to people.
Absolutely. There was another token launch over the last couple of months. I'm not gonna name the token, that also has an FTV of between 1 to 5 billion, and the valuation that it got before they did raise VC money was 90 times lower than the current FTV, and nothing really happened in the meantime. So it's crazy to see those multiples again. Definitely agree. But to your question on did I make a profit or not? It was actually fun because I had to do the math on it. It was not as straightforward as with say other airdrops, say the ZTX homes, where this is what you bought your home for, this is what every holder got. Here you had to do way more math with the fire sale allocation, with the maps, because if you wanted a captain with a mythical map, which I wanted to have, they were I think almost a 1 ETH premium typically to the typical floor captains, and then you have to do the math on the maps allocation to see if that part was even worth it. So it was not as straightforward to understand this airdrop and to know if you made money on it or not.
Very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Super interesting. Legendary, is there any chance that the way to have played this is the way I played it in the end? And again, someone, Roberto on YouTube, has asked, should we buy this coin? When we're talking about our various plays, obviously this is not financial advice. So we're just talking about the numbers, talking about some of the things we've done, talking through our thought process. So please take it with a pinch of salt in that respect. What I did this morning, knowing that I had never been part of the meme land ecosystem, is that I saw that tweet from OX chart, and without knowing 100% if it was definitely them or not or whatever, but I thought, okay, that's cool. Only 5% of the 25% is unlocked today. I didn't know that before. Of course, I kind of agree with you that it's a bit high at the moment and it's come out the gate hot. And I think it will probably decline, but I would think that they're going to have something in their back pocket to try to incentivize you to continue to be a part of the ecosystem. And you've still got 20% left of that, right? So you've got only 5% of the 25% going to NFTs was unlocked today. So it's still a very reasonable chunk to, I don't know, maybe get via staking, come to you at some point in time, or by some other method. So I bought one this morning.
A captain or a potato?
I got a captain this morning. It dipped to about 3.5, and I got greedy and I was bidding a little bit lower, but I managed to pick one up at 3.7, and it's up at floors at 4.16 now. I've listed it at 4.3, and now I'm wondering, is that the easier way to make money? Just buy the dip, sell it. And I'm kind of happy with, like, at that price point, I'm kind of happy holding it if it doesn't sell, because I think that it's a cool ecosystem and I would love to learn more about it. And I think the way to learn more about it is to be in it. But equally, that would be a nice flip. Potentially that would make more money than all of the kind of complex calculations and other things like that. What do you think about that?
I mean, the majority of the token claim is still in the captain. The question for you is if you think that that remainder of 80% that is still to be claimed is outvaluing the 3.5 or 3.6 ETH that you paid for that, knowing that they went from a 69 million initial valuation to that 1.5 billion FTV, and knowing that you probably still have to wait until they will have a product that will have a token sync that they launch. So I think it boils down to that question. And then also to, the quote unquote intrinsic value that you assign to having the captain itself. It's like, if you're still happy if the captain goes down to, say, 2 ETH, which I don't think it does in the short term, and then you get your token unlocks. It's not an easy question. The easier thing is always to flip. And the other thing is the long-term speculation on the value of the ecosystem. So I can't answer it for you.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought about it like, there's no way that, well, okay, obviously there's a chance, so don't take this as like gospel, but there are other projects without this type of token involved or whatever that I don't think have the same strength of community, same type of leader, that are at 2.5, even in the 3 to 4 region, that don't have this ongoing token allocation incoming. And I think sometimes what happens is when you have the token, once the token is live, people get obsessed with the token and try to figure out all the value, not realizing that there is actually, like, these things don't go to zero in the absence of the token. There are plenty of other NFTs that people are not expecting tokens all the time, and they're just not at zero. They're in fact quite expensive still. So I think there is some of that intrinsic value that you just mentioned. Sam, just wanted to check in with you again, see if you wanted to come in on that, because I thought you came off mute. And then Funky, I see your hand raised as well. Would love to hear from you, Sam.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's hard to get. I mean, for something like this where it's just a meme, and yeah, I know, I'm sure it'll have value in the ecosystem. I think it's hard to get excited about a $1.5 billion valuation. And I think the team will surely do something to keep the value high. I feel like that line has lost people a lot of money, like throughout the history of the space. So I tend not to lean on that, but I'm again, you guys know me, I'm a bit more of a traditional guy. So when I see like a $1.5 billion valuation, and when I know how it takes years of work or a total, to get these kind of numbers in the real world, like when I see that type of stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's probably not the number I'd be buying here. That doesn't mean like, to your point, I think like, perhaps they're like a captains or, buying these NFTs, they're not, I think people value them outside of exclusively just being like a meme coin producing piggy bank. I think there is a little bit more going on there. So, I wouldn't say those are bad buys necessarily as far as getting the NFTs.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as an additional point on that kind of intrinsic value, not gonna lie, one of the reasons that I thought that this would be a cool thing is I saw the ship that they had in Hong Kong as part of this their 8th Fest celebrations, whatever, and I just thought it was a cool ship. I thought it was a cool ship.
I mean, one thing I'll say, having just from my experience living in Hong Kong, is like, yeah, they have those ships that look like old school pirate ships, and they're all awesome. And like what meme coin did, like, and I think everyone was seeing that for the first time with what they did a custom sale, but beyond that ship isn't that uncommon in like as far as like events in Hong Kong.
Got it. That's
Sir,
super
this was
interesting.
Pichek's investment hypothesis. The ship, you can't ruin it for him on day one to say that the ship is not as uncommon as he
Well,
thought it
he's
was.
already up on his trade, so he can sell his captain for a nice little profit already if that changes his mind.
You can say what you want about the ship, even if it's uncommon, even if it's an uncommon trait of ship. I thought it was a cool ship, so I'm sticking with it at least for the moment. Funky, your hands raised. What's your take on this meme mania and the 1.5 billion valuation? Do you think it's high, low? What about the NFTs themselves? What are your thoughts?
It's absolutely high, right? I mean, it's crazy, and I now regret not throwing a little bit of ETH into this thing when you guys were talking about a couple weeks ago. But I will say this too, right? And this was sort of my stance going back to the first time we talked about it a couple weeks back. The name alone, I think, is going to make this thing pump in a bull, right? Like putting the NFTs aside, just like Pepe was sort of like a culture thing. Memes are so strong in the Web3 culture. I mean, I wouldn't buy anything right now, right? At 1.5 billion. But just as a reminder, SHIB rocketed to like $45.5 billion and it does nothing. So I could see a maybe in a bull run where this really pops off and just runs in a way that, so would I buy any today? No. I was curious to find out like when that 25%, like how long that dilution is going to take for that to get out in the market, and if people continue to dump, that might be a better entry point. Again, NFA, I know that, but I just feel like the name alone is going to attract a lot of eyeballs just because of the culture.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And one of the things, just linking back to what Sam said, is that I think, I can't remember, I don't want to misquote you, Sam, but I think you said it's just a meme or it's just a meme or something like that. And it reminded me of a tweet that Spencer Ventures wrote the other day where he was just like, I'm not left curving this. It's meme. It's called meme. We like memes.
I'd say
It's nine
though,
gag.
I actually
And so it's going
will.
to go.
I'll actually disagree. Disagree is such a hostile word. That's but
It's okay to
I'll
disagree.
add on. I mean, I think Ray does want to build out holders.com, which is like, he really wants to build out like a TripAdvisor for Web3. That's kind of always been the vision, and he wants meme to play a serious role in that. So I think like this, like the whole like meme coin is nothing is also a bit of a meme in itself, where he's just like, I think they like saying it's useless, it's nothing, but from his conversations, they are building out a bigger piece of software that they want to be like I feel like TripAdvisor is kind of like the best comparable from what he's described. Again, like, should we ascribe value to something for something that's not built or known yet? Probably not. But I think the intention is for this to have some sort of value, and that's almost like mainly worthwhile in the sense that it will give people anticipation for another year or two of what's to come, which is often more important for coins than actual utility.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I wonder if that was part of their internal conversations as like the way to pitch the coin, right? Like in some respect, are they having to pitch it at a lower level in order to get interest and get people excited? Because if people were to know the full extent, and I'm actually with you there. I was aware that there is this bigger vision, so I know about it because I've listened to an interview with him. But I wonder whether other people do. And I wonder whether they actually had to say, like, you know what, let's play it down. The more we try to explain it as part of this, kind of ecosystem, maybe that will confuse
I
people.
think that Ray is very, very good at the anticipation game. It's something these guys just have very good spider sense and intuition for. I think the way that they launch, when they launched potatoes, there were like 6 different phases of the art evolving, and each one took a month.
Yeah.
And I think that they're just kind of aware of that, and it showed. Like, when they revealed, everyone wanted to, like, the worst thing that happened, I think, like, the worst thing that happened to Captain's Prices was revealing the art. Like, they get that that anticipation is what creates value in this space, and you just have to linger that on as long as possible. It's been very kind of intrinsic to how they've run their project since potatoes were launched in August of 2022.
Yeah, I agree. They were always super aware, right? That we don't want to reveal. We're going to string this out as long as possible. We don't want to reveal. You don't want to reveal. We're going to take as long as we can.
And I think what they would say also is that they are building a lot of software in the background, and it's like the longer you string things out, the more it gives them time to their engineers time to like build something and to work on the software they're building without worrying about the day-to-day, community angst.
Yeah, buying time. Buying time is such a useful skill in this space. If you can just calm the community and tell them that it's coming. I did wonder at one point in time, to be honest, with this community, that they have genuinely been made to wait a very, very long time. And it seems like they managed to do it in a reasonable way, and they've been rewarded for doing so. So well played to them. Legendary, want to bring you back in here. What are your thoughts on the discussion so far? And just want to kind of shout out a question to people in the audience who might be, I'm not sure what the time in Hong Kong would be, but if anyone's been at the event, I'm looking for two things. A, any information about Memeland, like how it's been going, anything about the coin conversations you've had, but also tell me about the ship. If you were on the ship, if you saw the flag, tell me that it's amazing, if that is possible. Just request, Legendary will bring you up. But your thoughts, Legendary?
Hong Kong 7 hours ahead, so it's approaching 9 p.m. Still a reasonable time. You're just looking for someone to reinforce your investment thesis after Sam shattered it by telling you the ship is not as rare as you thought it was.
Yeah, I want to know about the ship. I'm being honest. I want to know about it.
No, my thoughts are, yes, the community has been very patient, but something fundamentally changed. We've been talking about the intrinsic value that obviously the captain still holds, no matter if there is still locked meme tokens to be claimed within it or not. But I'm curious as to how, the market has valued the captains, put it like that, before the airdrop at 4 to 5 ETH before, in anticipation of the airdrop. Now you have the airdrop, now you have the spot price, and you still have more tokens to be claimed over time. And now the question is, how much will those two correlate? Because as opposed to the ape airdrop, where you instantly got your ape, and then obviously the prices fluctuated after that, you still have that locked claim. And if meme will go down, say, to 1 cent, curious to what extent that will affect the floor price, and what the market will then value the intrinsic value of the captain. So if the floor price, if the floor price goes down by only 20% once token, or if the token would dump 50%, then you could easily do the math and see like what the market thinks that the intrinsic value is. So I'm curious to see how those two will correlate.
That's a great point. I'm going to explain my thinking on this in a second. Sam, just a quick note. I think we can hear some feedback from your audio at the moment. Thank you. Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about that exact same thing. I saw that there was going to be only 5% of the 25% going to NFTs was unlocked today. And I just thought, okay, they're sitting at 3.5 or whatever. What is the intrinsic value? But then you have to, like, these things are only worth what people are willing to pay for them, obviously. But one of the only ways to get a good sense of the value is to look around at the rest of the market and like, well, okay, well, what's a DGod worth? What's a Pudgy Penguin worth? What's a whatever worth? And with those other NFTs sitting in a 3 to 4 region, it just makes me think that captains in a 4 to 5 region with the airdrop was just very underpriced, because I think in the absence of any of that, I think, this is just my opinion, I think they would be higher than a DGod, for example, right now, in the absence of anything. So if the price is the same at the moment with all of these things and with the team, I just think it would be higher on a relative basis. I think even Pudgy Penguin's up at 5, and I think Luca's doing an amazing job, really awesome. I just think, if you put them next to each other, it just feels like captains is a bit undervalued in comparison. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I thought.
Yeah, we had that concept of kind of relative discount.
Yes.
Once we talked about that period in the market where basically DGods, Pudgies, Zukis, everything was at around 4 ETH mark, captains as well. And they seem to move in synchronicity. So if 3 collections moved up, then and captains didn't increase by 10%, they would follow along.
Yes.
Just based on that, it's relatively undervalued because they've been at the same price for the longest of times, and that was probably ignoring the value of the upcoming airdrop. So I'm now curious to see if this relative discount will still be a factor, what the intrinsic value could look like, and how the market will adapt for fluctuations and volatility in the meme price.
That's a great point. I remember when we did notice, right, on the show, this was months ago, we just had, and I'm trying to remember which collections they were. I'm just going to go through them now, and you can add any if I'm missing them. It was Captains, Azuki, D-Gods. Maybe it was these three. Was there anything else? Captains,
Pudgies.
Azukis, and D-Gods and Pudgies. Those four became like, in this 3 to 4-ish region all at the same time. And yeah, I guess it's just like, which one do you like? Maybe it just depends on your preference, but they all kind of got wrapped up in the same band. And just to give people an update then on where those have moved since, and because this is what happens, right? The market moves and then you have to try to readjust. And it's like, well, if you actually compare these with each other, has it moved, and is one of them now out of balance with the rest, depending on what you think of the project? So we have Captains at 4.17 now. You have D-Gods at 3.1, so a whole ETH between Captains and D-Gods. You've got Azuki's at 5.1, so Azuki's are now 2 ETH more than a D-Gods and 1 ETH more than a Captains, and you've got Pudgies just under 5. So Azuki's and Pudgies very similar, and basically 2 ETH more than a D-Gods and 1 ETH more than a Captains, roughly. When you present it like that, of those four that are kind of in the same bracket, very much doing different things though in the ecosystem, what's your thought when you just hear that instinctively?
My instinctive thought doesn't have to do anything with Captains. It's just that Azukis and Pudgies are super close together. Seeing what Pudgies recently did with the toys and with dominating the timeline with the Walmart deal, etc., and kind of leads me back to that thought that we had so often on the show, how much the Spirit DAO community is carrying the Azuki floor price and the Azuki activity overall, because they are not yet in the phase to have released something that would compare to what the Pudgies did.
Absolutely. Like, they are one lucky community to have that crowd of people, and good on them for recognizing them. Was it yesterday or the day before with that special hoodie? I mean, you might think that there could be more elaborate, fantastical ways to reward the people who are supporting your floor, but I think it's still a nice gesture and something which they probably appreciated, because they are a very, very strong group of people. Well, we're going to just continue discussion on meme. We obviously have the other headlines for you. We'll touch on them in just a second as we kind of continue the discussion on meme. But before we do that, we're just going to give you a Web3 roundup from what else has been going on in the space in the last 24 hours and a focus on the Creator Corner. As always, it's up top in the snapshot. So let's do it. Number one, OpenSea Pro now goes live on Polygon. Interesting context on that. Obviously, report on the news and the volume every day. OpenSea Pro is not doing a lot of volume. So good to see it's on Polygon, but it's not doing much at the moment. Next, Proof announces fall-winter exhibition series, including artists Helena Sarin, Herbert Frank, Craig Mullins, Summer Wagner, and Otherworld. I love some of those artists. It looks really, really good. Next, PayPal reveals SEC issued a subpoena related to its stablecoin. We spoke about Gary Gensler a couple of days and the potential overreach of the SEC. That's an interesting piece of news. Next, Mintify launches season 2, where you can mint from any launchpad or smart contract and earn XP. That sounds pretty fun. Or next, getting into the Creator Corner, number one, Zen Academy course, 30 days of NFT tech, launched this week. They've had more than 700 signups, doing some good work on the educational front. Also, some other people doing some nice educational front. I saw Loopify create an educational course recently. That looked quite good. Next, Transient Labs partners with art platform Foundation. They say that creators using the lab can now list their ERC 721 TL work on Foundation and Worlds with just one click. And finally, from a creator perspective, all of you Twitter hosts out there should be worried because the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak interviewed Elon Musk on AI. It seems like they've seen what can be done, seems how much you can earn, and everyone wants to be interviewing the most prominent people on the internet. So watch out. That is the Web3 Roundup. That's the Creator Corner Legendary. Anything take your eye there before we head back to close out on Meme Land?
Definitely didn't expect Rishi Sunak interviewing Elon Musk. Was not on my bingo card for this year.
Honestly, it's just ridiculous. Like, I really think now I don't know, traditional establishment, whether it's like governmental or financial institutions or whatever, they're going to have to increasingly reach out to these different, to the, like, internet prominent people. You have like these traditionally prominent people, they're going to have to reach out to internet prominent people. And you actually saw this the other day. I think you see this playing out when Formula, like the Rug Radio partnership with Williams, is it? Or it's via Kraken with Williams. I don't know exactly how it works. Obviously, I'm not involved. But it seems to be the case that like they're quite keen of just getting some of this internet exposure with with creators online who get really good engagement, because I don't think their accounts necessarily do. So they're trying to reach new audiences. And yeah, I think the interview host, the creator, is a good position to be in. Sam, you came off. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they're two sort of separate things. I think, I'm very intrigued by Thread Guy and his F1 content and why F1 was interested in this audience. And it makes sense, but I thought that was interesting. I think Elon Musk is the richest person in the world and one of the most important people in the world for geopolitics. I mean, between owning Twitter and SpaceX, which has had a massive role in wars, and so much so that Elon has said, this is too much power even for me. And he never said something like that. Like he doesn't seem to have that humility. And even he was like, this is too much for me when it came to the role SpaceX was playing in the Ukraine war. Like I wouldn't chalk that up to, whoa, the internet made it. I think like Elon is arguably certainly one of the most powerful people on the planet. So the idea of him playing a larger role with politicians and relevant people, I think is a different topic from Thread Guy and F1 caring about NFT influencers. Both interesting, but I think kind of different lanes.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that my observation in terms of Rishi's interview was that I don't know if I've seen it kind of performed in that way before, where it's like, I completely appreciate Elon, as you say, is one of, if not one of the most important people in the world. But I've never seen it like, right, I'm going to go and be interviewed by the prime minister. Like, I'm not aware of a former prime minister
doing that in public, doing that as a public format.
Yeah,
because if you watch the whole interview, like, Rishi was talking about how they are trying to work with the Chinese when it comes to AI, to see what their policies are. And he was asking Elon, is this the right thing to do? Should we do this? Is this not the right thing to do? It's like almost as if it were a private conversation where you ask for what Elon thinks on that topic, but just do it as a public piece of content. That was a novel concept to me.
Yeah, I think that's what was cool about it. I mean, and well played to them for having, I guess, the humility to have a really interesting, honest conversation out in public. But yeah, just the fact that they were going to interview a prominent person, I just wasn't aware of a prime minister doing that before. So that was my perspective on that.
As long as he's not coming for the modern market to take over and host, I'm very fine with it.
Absolutely. Legendary, any final thoughts on the coin, the meme land ecosystem? Again, we said the headlines are always there. Usually, if you are new to the show, we discuss the 3 headlines from the snapshot, which is pinned up top every single day. You can see SBF news was pretty big as well. It was very interesting. We've just spent a bit more time on Meme today. So he was found guilty of all 7 charges of fraud and conspiracy. And I would really encourage you to check out the Yatrida artwork, which sold for 22 ETH and 10 ETH respectively, collected by some very prominent collectors. That's why I put it as a headline today. So that's what we usually do. We do the show every single day, Monday to Friday And we'll be back on our usual time schedule at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. BST from next week. Legendary, any closing thoughts?
I will definitely watch Meme and Captain's Prize over the weekend and potentially take decisions.
Potentially take decisions. A toast to that.
Not very decisive. It's more decisive in my head than it just sounded.
Well, very good. I hope that the information we discussed today gives everyone some food for thought so that they can also potentially take some decisions over the weekend. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care, and we will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.